Yeah, I love windows, and I don't mean the kind you use to look out of. Yeah, I mean the other windows, the windows that all this stuff kind of happens around. Oh, technology is my friend sometimes, and sometimes technology is the enemy. So, anyway, how you doing, Aaron?
Doing all right, Frank. Doing all right. So, how soon are they going to stop supporting the current version of Windows that you're running and force you to upgrade to a new one?
I do have I do have the new one.
Oh, well, maybe that's part of the problem.
I have Windows 11. I definitely have Windows 11. Um, well, some people suggested that the reason Windows 11 exists, the real change they made is to allow Windows to have more, Microsoft to have more control over your computer. Um, because it's never about us. It's not about making our lives simpler, or I want to underline this word, underline, cheaper. It's
Mm,
no, 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 no. That's not why we're here. We're not here to be thought of as somebody who has limited money to spend. We have an exponential amount of money to spend. We have so much that it doesn't matter how much they ask. It is not much to ask. But that's
ha-
just me. That's just me whining.
have you heard of crypto, Frank?
You know, the,
I'm sorry.
the only currency I have is the currency of from day to day. I live for today, pray for tomorrow, and anything past that is a pipe dream. So I'm good where I am. Thank you very much. Anyway, let's get to why we're here. And we're here to talk about Vegas hanging at a loss on the Maple Leafs. And there's so much stuff going on.
Yeah, there is one consolation for bitter Leaf fans out there, and that's that Mitch Marner did not have a point, finished with one shot on goal, and only played 17 minutes and 25 seconds in his first game back since the Maple Leafs traded him to the Golden Knights in July. Um, this is the first time he's been in Toronto. This is the second time he's faced them since January 15th when he had 2 assists in a 6-5 overtime win in Las Vegas. Um, it's one of those. Jack Eichel had a goal and an assist. Ivan Barbashev had 2 assists, and Aiden Hill made 18 saves on Toronto's 21 shots for the Golden Knights, who had lost 2 in a row coming into that game on Friday. Stone, however, did manage to extend his point scoring streak to 12 goals and 11 assists during the past 14 games, which is the longest in Las Vegas history. They did not look like they played well at all during this particular game. The defensive lapses, you could see goals coming. Do you know what I mean, Frank? Like you've watched enough Maple Leaf games to know that you can see them coming. So
I've seen them coming in this game 3 games ago.
yeah, well, I mean, the one small consolation I take out of all of this is that Marner didn't score, which is usually what happens when ex-players come back to play the Leafs, and that's really small consolation.
I have some questions.
Sure.
Okay. Here we are now. We're on the cusp. We seem to be Leaf fans, Leaf Nation, the world around the Maple Leafs, Toronto media, all that stuff. We seem to be walking on a fence, and one of our feet is in the air, and we're losing our balance. We don't know if we're going to fall on this side. We don't know if we're going to fall on this side. We don't know if we're going to fall on this side. And the way Leaf fans are portrayed is let Leaf fans jump on that fence and already know what they're going to do. In other words, it's all under the Leaf fans' control. So when people talked about Marner, and it came down to he said they did, right?
Yeah.
We're entering into the he said they did world once more, and this time it's Matthews' turn to be in the breach. But here's my question. who's to blame for him being in the breach? Is it the fans? Is it really the fans? Isn't there a bargain that's made between a player and the team and therefore the fans that they ask to be paid X? And if they don't provide X when they ask for X, it's not the fans' fault because they didn't make the deal.
No,
it's ownership in that player.
There is a covenant that is made between players and the team, which is usually codified by a contract. That contract, based on the dollar figure attached to it, then becomes a covenant between the players and the fans. And if a player cannot live up to the implied value that said contract is supposed to bring to the fans,
that they're suggesting they're worth. Remember,
yep.
they ask for that money.
This is not something that the fans are giving the players. This is something the player and his agent are going out and saying, I'm worth this. And the fans, us lucky chumps that get to spend a mortgage payment per game, get to say, hey, you say you're worth this. Show us. And so far.
So then the next step is, what is a fan's reaction? Is there an acceptable natural reaction by the fans, which would be understandable, that they may just be a little dissatisfied with a player's abilities, at least their production? So now, if that's the case, if you're a player and you're the player that's not, there's no avoiding the knowledge that you're not playing as well as your contract says. Do you avoid coming out to be interviewed before and after one of the most important games to the fans and to the organization and to the media? Do you refuse to come out? And if you do, what does that say? I'm just curious.
It feels to me that at times there's a genuine lack of accountability. And, certain people get away with it because I just got here. They just hired me. I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing. But,
the other guy did it. The other guy did it.
That excuse eventually wears thin. And the fact that there seems to be no way to hold players accountable is an issue. Like, as soon as you want to try to hold a player accountable, they're just going to ask for a trade. And, oh, hey, problem solved. We got rid of the problem. How come the rest of the team still sucks? And this is one of those situations where something needs to be done, but nothing can be done because of the amount of money that these players command and the prices that the fans are willing to pay. They basically get to behave or play in a fashion that means they're not accountable for game results. The Leafs are 1-4-2 in their past 7 games. They're terrible. This includes an 0-3-1 start to their current 5-game homestand following a 10-game run of 8-0-2. The script has been completely reversed. They gave us a little bit of hope with decent performances, and as soon as the fans started to believe in them again, the old, hey, everybody's injured, oh, I just got here, started again. And it's not something that's sustainable over the long run. The fact that they turned around Sunday night and had a stinker of a game against Colorado really didn't help things either. Brock Nelson had 2 goals in 1 minute and 12 seconds in the first period. Got his 5th career hat trick with an empty netter as Colorado beat Toronto 4-1 on Sunday night.
He's been a Leaf killer over the years, even when he was with the Islanders.
This is one of those games where realistically you expected the Leafs to challenge. I wasn't.
But
I didn't think that they would
misled a little bit on that. I'm going to call you out on this. You were a little misled because they won the last time they played.
Well, they won in overtime by the skin of their teeth.
Exactly.
Colorado has lost 6 or fewer games in regulation through their first 50. They're 35, 6, and 9 now.
They lost 4 of their first 40 games.
And one of those was to the Leafs. So, hope springs eternal. But, I was just glad they managed to break the shutout. because the rest of it was just terrible.
So my concern is the same concern I've had for years, and that is Matthews just does not or is not willing to stand up and point him at himself as a problem. He lacks the ability to say that I need to be better. And that to me is that's why he's going to end up getting run out of town, because quite frankly, Leaf fans aren't stupid. Now, some might suggest, and it's been suggested, that they ran Marner out of town, and it's their fault that he's gone. And therefore, all the bad stuff that happens because Marner's gone is the fault of the fans. And right now, the fans are unhappy with Matthews. And here's the thing for me. This is the bottom line. At the end of the day, players are players, fans are fans. Ownership and management is management. And each of them play a part in this symbiotic relationship. Here's the problem. It repeats itself again, and it will continue repeating itself because the Maple Leaf organization, this version, starting with Shanahan, had the audacity to think that they could assume, without seriously looking at the players they put out there as their front pieces, the players that stir the drink. They felt over the years, prior to Trey Living, and now Trey Living's got a different battle. But before that, the battle was, who can we add to the Maple Leaf team to inject some character and want to win? Let's go find guys that we can add to that formula. The problem is they kept adding it to Marner, Matthews, and Nylander. Neither of the three are capable of being big players in big games. They're guys that when the going gets easy, they play really well. When the going gets tough, they don't. My point is, and I really am not digressing to the point of insanity, management, before the fans realize what they've got, should know before the fans do. Why? They're paid to understand who these players are, A. B, they're interacting with these players directly on a daily basis. If you can't figure out the kind of character that Marner, Matthews, and Nylander have, like Nylander flashing the finger, please, that's childish. But it speaks to his character. To do something like that shows that he's just a bit of a moron, right? And he made a mistake, but he's a bit of a moron. So now he does that. You got Matthews won't come out and be interviewed in the biggest night where the media, this is a big deal. It's a feeding frenzy. He decides, I'm not going to go out there and talk. So for me, Aaron, no matter how you want to cut this, I'm going to repeat what I've been saying for the last few years. Get rid of Matthews, get rid of Nylander, send them along, and it doesn't matter what you get in return because it really doesn't matter. This is a case of subtraction being better for the team, and that's all there is to it. The Maple Leaf organization have been very, very supportive of those three players. They spent lots. They spent two generations of assets, the ones they had and the ones they're going to have, to help these guys become a winner, and they were incapable of coming through in the same manner they were treated. The organization, come on, Aaron, they did a good job of bringing guys in that could have filled in the gaps, but they were asked to fill more than gaps. And it didn't work. And that's why I put it at the feet of management. Now that I've said that, there's a change. Bell Media's gone. Tannenbaum's taken a step back. It's Rogers alone. Because I don't want to be a negative person here. So I'm going to say the positive thing is, maybe, just maybe, the Maple Leafs are going to be in the hands of an ownership that was able to do something with the Toronto Blue Jays that many of us didn't think was possible, considering the competition they were up against. I mean, they're in baseball's Atlantic Division.
Yeah, the division that they're in is not doing them any favors. I think the issue that a lot of people have, though, is as it currently stands, we've played 52 games so far this season. We are 5 points out of a wild card spot, and we are 6 points behind the Buffalo friggin' Sabres. Of all the teams for us to be behind, and more than and I was having a discussion with someone else about this sort of thing. We need to remember that the sins of the past are not on this current team. Their sins are on this current team. We cannot continue to blame these players for something that didn't happen after 1967. We can blame them for what has happened since 2015 all the way through until now, when we've had this current crop of players. And this is a generational thing that keeps rolling over every 10 years
but
or
it
so.
always comes back to ownership. It always comes back to ownership. I'm sorry, Aaron. It's easy to blame the players. And when I say Matthews has to be shipped out, I'm not saying he has to be shipped out because of Auston Matthews. It's not because of Matthews. I'm not saying Nylander should be shipped out because of Nylander. I'm saying that they're just not the right kind of guys to lead a team. And they have too much money thrown at them to be what they are. It's mismanagement. This organization has been mismanaged for so long. And I go back to the very beginning of the Dubas thing. I know it's a sensitive spot for you, but I will repeat again. The Toronto Maple Leafs brought a general manager in and put a guy in charge with no experience. The Toronto Maple Leafs, not some fly-by-night expansion team. This is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, for those of you who don't like the Leafs, stop laughing. I don't think it's funny. But the point is, a team with the money that they have should be able to hire the best GM that's out there. The team with the money that they have should be able to get the best president in the National Hockey League. Not Shanahan, not Dubas, both new to their positions. How stupid is that? How stupid is it to bring people in who you don't really know what they can do? You're just going on what? A wing and a prayer? And this is what one of the most expensive organizations comes up with. So now what they got to do now, Aaron, to me, Trey Living is living on borrowed time that isn't all his fault, but some is. And unfortunately, he's in the position where if he's not perfect and doesn't do a perfect job, the same with the coach and the same with the players they have. If these people don't do the best that they're capable of doing, this team's going to fall out of a playoff spot. It's just unavoidable.
Well, I mean, there is some hope at the end of this tunnel. There is a light there. I mean, you've got a whole bunch of guys that are going to be UFAs for the 26-27 season. I don't know how much it helps, but you're getting.
Like to see you at the team. But the problem is the guys they can get rid of. Many of them are guys you don't want to get rid of. And the ones you want to get rid of, you can't get rid of. That's the situation in Toronto. The guys
Matthias Michelli is going to be an RFA. Calle Yarncroke is going to be a UFA. Scott Lawton, Bobby McMahon is going to be a UFA. Jacob Quillen, languishing with the Marlies, and Nicholas Robertson are both going to be RFAs. Then you've got Henry Thrun, who was a throw-in, and then you've got the waiver wire pickup Troy Stetcher, who's going to be a UFA at the end of the year. But Matt Benning is due to come off. He's been buried with the Marlies for a while now, but you know, this current situation is unfortunately untenable. There is too much bloat at the top end for them to be able to actually do anything here.
Unfortunately, that's the problem, and
so.
And the hope was, Aaron, you and I know what the hope was. The hope was Marner's salary out the door, offered them an opportunity to get some decent guys in here on decent salaries. And those guys, again, we're back at the same thing I said before. They're just unable to make up. Look, I will never forget, and it will be for the rest of my life, I will always remember Matthews playing against Vegas, unable to skate to the other end and skate right by the bench. He could have made it to the bench and somebody else would have got to the other end faster. At the end of the day, I'm never going to forget that. and that's something that Matthews will never live down, because that's what everybody's going to remember, because we were all paying a lot of attention to that game. That game that's going to end up being their game 7. That's going to be their game 7.
Had he done it in any other game, I don't think anybody would have cared as much.
Exactly.
And the next night against the Colorado Avalanche on Sunday with William Nylander throwing the bird at the camera, everybody's done it. Come on, Frank, admit it. You've thrown the bird at a random camera that you see. Exactly. Everybody's done it. So, by the way, Kadri's getting fined $2,500 for that.
Kadri?
No, of course. He's the whooping boy for all of the Leafs suspensions and issues.
He got a 20. No, I think you mean Nylander.
No. That's the joke. Kadri's getting fined for what Nylander did. Anyways. But at the end of the day, there is a certain amount of maturity that needs to go into this. I don't know which other 28-year-old out there needs to be told not to give the camera the finger when you're in the box. But the camera's pointed at you. He'll get a slap on the wrist for that. Whatever. It's a tempest in a teacup. We get over that, we move on.
Ferentz did it in the game against Montreal in the playoffs in 2015, I think, something like that.
Sergachev did it earlier this year with Utah Mammoth, right to a camera coming off the ice. So
and that's on the ice.
Not unheard of.
And that's on the ice. Well, I don't know what kind of emotional stress Nylander was in, sitting up there having popcorn and drinking whatever. I mean, one is on the ice, which is bad because now you're in the focus of the game, right? But then again, when a broadcast is broadcasting and you just have a camera point at you and you pull the rabbit out of the hat. No, Aaron, this is a train wreck. And every train wreck has moments when you think it's not gonna, it's wobbling. This is a train wreck that's wobbling. You can see it could end up off the tracks any second. And that's the hardest part of all this, right? Because the stress is unfair on the players. It's unfair on Matthews. It's unfair on Nylander. It's unfair on all the players on the team, the coaches, the GMs on the team. It's unfair. But the problem is they all own a piece of why it's happening. We can argue about how big the pieces are, but we know they all are accountable for this. From the fans' perspective, because quite frankly, all we do is pay the freight. So, we don't make decisions. We're only passengers ourselves.
No, that is very true. And at the end of the day, the players' actions are on them. There's a reason why they don't carry mic'd up players live. Everybody knows they curse. Not anymore. It only took a certain amount of F-bombs on Versus for them to realize that's probably a bad idea. But,
what do you want to talk about next?
Well, I mean, we could look at the fact that the Raptors are now have won 4 in a row. They walked past the Blazers pretty handily. Quickly the other night had 23 points and 11 rebounds as they beat the OKC Thunder at 103-101. Rumor is now that they could be back in the mix for Antetokounmpo when it comes to a trade for the Raptors. So there's that going on. It's one of those things where this team, which is sadly mostly overlooked by me, mainly because I'm more of a hockey guy than I am a basketball guy.
Soon we'll be paying attention to them because you just won't want to watch the Leafs anymore. That's going to happen. It's going to get there.
It's them or the Scepters.
Yeah,
maybe even the Marlies, but
the Olympics.
Wow, hey, we got the Olympics. I mean, the Raptors are currently 3rd in the Eastern Conference at 29-19. I think they deserve more credit and attention than they're currently getting. The problem is we have the hay wagon on fire that is the Maple Leafs behind us, and you got Leslie Nielsen waving his hands in front of the fireworks factory saying nothing to see here, but everything is just going up in flames at this point. So it's kind of hard to look past that. Unfortunately, Victoria Mboko is out. She fell in the second round of doubles at the Australian Opens and was also beaten by Arina Sabalenka in singles. So she's unfortunately out there. The Blue Jays, on the other hand, have signed a former Boston Red Sox pitcher to a minor league deal. That would be Connor Siebold. He's going to get an invite to spring training. He was a third-round pick of the Phillies in the 2017 draft. He played his college ball at Cal State Fullerton. He resurfaced in 2025 after disappearing for a couple of years with the Tampa Bay Rays and Atlanta Braves. Didn't get any wins or losses out of it all, and had finished with a 4.35 ERA. But there is hope here that he can bolster their back end a little bit.
Canadian hockey, Bruins beat the Canadians.
Yeah, that was not a surprise. Bruins have been picking it up. Fraser Minton has been playing extremely well. I know that we mentioned that the Leafs should probably set it all on fire and tear it down to the studs. I don't want that to happen this year, mainly because Boston has our first-round draft pick, and it's protected. So if it goes lottery, that means they get our lottery pick. I don't want that.
Well, they're not going to let them have that. They're going to take that. The problem is they automatically get the draft pick, their first overall next year, which could be another lottery pick.
The way things are going here, man, maybe.
Well, I hope management's smart enough to create an opportunity for this team to turn things around, but I just don't see the guys you can lean on. The guys you can lean on are injured and probably never coming back. Tanev, injured, never. That's the guy that they need on the defense. This team would look a lot different if that guy was healthy, and he's not. Enough about the Leafs. The Sens, they were given a lesson by the Canes on how to protect a multiple goal lead.
Yeah, they jumped out to an early 4-0 lead and then basically shut everything down at the Canadian Tire Center. Seth Jarvis had a goal and an assist, while Brandon Bussey, a Canes waiver claim earlier this season, stopped all 35 shots that he faced. 35 of 36. Ottawa's now lost 4 of its last 5 games, and 3 of those losses feature multi-goal Senators leads. The shot clock really didn't tell the story because they outshot the Canes 36-19, but I don't think they were ever really in that game. I watched a goodly chunk of it and was just surprised at how out of it they seemed. Now, they did manage to turn it around rather handily the next night because Halle and Cousins each had 2 goals, and the Sens just stomped the Vegas Golden Knights 7-1, which it did my heart good. Linus Ullmark returned to the active roster. He was backing up Maz Sogard. So good to see him back on the bench. I don't know if you saw TSN's feature on him, but it was a very comprehensive 26-minute interview. Well worth watching. Rasmus Anderson scored in the third period for Vegas to make it 7-1 and break the shutty. But, man, Vegas just looked like they'd much rather go home than continue to play.
They had a very emotional game in Toronto. And they rose up for that game, but unfortunately left themselves with 2 little fumes in the next game, which is what happens. You have a real emotional game like that. There's a bit of a drop off in whatever. Let's talk about the Oilers, and McDavid scores in overtime. He's had a tough week, but he finally did something I think that makes him happy, and he deserves to be happy. That poor guy. So much pressure on him when it comes to Edmonton, and he lost it a couple of times. Kicked 2 players.
I'm still thinking he should get supplemental discipline for that, man.
I don't know how he hasn't gotten any.
And he's going to have to play with Tom Wilson in the Olympics in a couple of weeks. It's interesting that the centerpiece.
Will he carry Wilson's bags for him?
You never know. In that particular game, though, Evan Bouchard had his first NHL hat trick as well as 3 assists. He figured in on every single one of Edmonton's goals. There's been a bit of an outcry online over him not being selected for Team Canada, whereas Drew Doughty was. There's a lot of recency bias that goes into these complaints, though. There's a lot of, what have you done for me lately? Look what this guy did in the past 3 games. Why hasn't Doughty done the same thing? Washington got off to a really slow start and didn't actually register a shot on goal until the final minute of the first period. So, it's one of those things where Edmonton shut them down, comprehensively shut them down for the first period. It didn't go so well in the second and third, but, Draisaitl got his 600th regular season assist on Bouchard's second goal. He's the 4th player in franchise history with 600. Following McDavid, Gretzky, and Messier. So, he's doing a strong case for the Oilers Hall of Fame.
Kindle, rookie for Pittsburgh, had a good game against the Canucks.
Yeah, he scored twice in the second period. That was pretty much what they needed. This is actually the capper on a sweep of Pittsburgh's 4-game Western Canada trip. This is essentially a home game for Kindle. He was born in Coquitlam. Had a large contingent of supporters on hands for his second multi-bowl game. He'd gone 20 games without a goal after scoring 8 in his first 28 games and had 10 goals and 12 assists in 48 now. Evgeny Malkin also scored for the Penguins, and Skinner stopped 19 shots and won for the 7th time in 8 games. I'm starting to think that maybe Skinner wasn't the problem in Edmonton.
I think you're right.
It is what it is.
I think you're right. And as is the case a lot of times, right? There sometimes are whipping boys, right? The whipping post gets the lashes. But anyway, that was an interesting weekend of sports that you covered. One thing too that I wanted to mention, how on a political side, how quiet things are in the U.S. over the murders that have been happening, and the first people to talk about it are basketball. The NBA Players Association and some coaches have been very vociferous about what's going on in Minneapolis, and otherwise there's no one else of any kind of import talking about it. Aaron, is it fear?
I was going to say the Minnesota Frost did actually have a moment of silence.
Yes, they did. The women too. Yes.
As well.
The teammates. Opponents got together and stood together.
Yeah, and it's one of those situations where I'm not sure how much people are willing to say or why they're afraid to say anything, but the silence from a lot of quarters coming out over this is louder than it should be. This sort of thing with the deaths of Renee Good and Pretty, there should be a lot more noise about this sort of thing, because it doesn't just affect them, it affects everybody. So,
but the bully has them backing up a little bit. He has them scared. He knows what he's done. It's all been part of the plan, and now we have a case of innocent people being killed who did less. People who've done less to deserve being killed than the people Donald Trump pardoned.
Yeah. They're saying, some news outlets, you'll know who, are saying that Freddie was a domestic terrorist who deserved to be shot for carrying his pistol, but Minnesota has open carry and permit to carry laws, so he's perfectly within his rights to be out in public with his sidearm if he chooses. So,
one of my favorite lines, because there's tons of excuses for the behavior, right, for what happens, and one of my favorite lines was, well, he should have been carrying papers to show that he could carry that gun. I didn't see a break in being bear sprayed or whatever, mace sprayed and shoved. Nobody said to him, "Can I see your papers?" And the other thing is, nothing says being threatening than 9 bullet holes in your back.
And to hold him down while doing it is the ultimate in cowardice.
It is totally shameful.
I'm sorry. A lot of this gets me really angry, Frank, and that's why I try not to talk politics anymore.
You have someone who gets very angry about it, but I just wanted to make sure we put it out there.
Yeah.
A person isn't dangerous when you shoot him in the back 9 times. You can say everything else, all the other bull crap that's said. You just can't prove you were in danger when you put 9 bullet holes in somebody's back. All right. Have a great day, Aaron, on that note.
All right, Frank. We'll see you Wednesday.
Ciao, buddy.